Hello and welcome to Model Kit Stuff, and today's first impressions video is the ICM newly released Mig-29 in Ukrainian Air Force service. It's 1/72 scale. It's the Ghost of Kyiv. So this kit has just been released. It's hitting the shops as I record this on the 18th of June 2022, and my understanding is that ICM are releasing this kit, and money that comes from the sale of this kit will be going into Ukraine's war effort. So let's have a look at what we get. So let's take a look. We've got a nice glossy piece of artwork with the Mig-29 in the background in its modern camouflage. You've got the pilot giving the thumbs up, who is the Ghost of Kyiv pilot, I guess. And then you've got this monument in the background. So yeah, it's a nice piece of artwork, and as always, ICM boxes have a separate lid, and this one is no different. If we look at the sides, there is some history, and I'm just going to put that into view so you can pause and read that if you want, because obviously the history is a little interesting. Box ends basically just tell you what the top cover does, and then on this this side we've got a couple of side profile shots of the finished model. I'm guessing there's only one paint scheme in here, and tells you that you need to be 14 and over to build the kit. So let's have a look what you get in our box. We've got one single bag with all the parts in. I can see that the clear parts are in a separate bag in there as well. So what have we got? 3 sprues maybe in there. And then we've got our instructions and our decals. So let's have a look at the instructions first. Okay, so as we look at the front cover of the instruction booklet, its colour, don't think it's stapled though, I think it's gatefold. There's some more decals. So we've got the same information as in the history that was on the side of the box there. Got some dimensions and information about the actual aircraft. Our colours are Revell and Tamiya, which is interesting. Just the 2 brands. There is a number there against ICM, so I'm not quite sure what that is. I'm not aware that they do their own paint range, but it tells you it's gunmetal, natural steel, clear green, clear red, and then we've got some others here: off-white, grey, dark grey, black, and natural steel. So yeah, doesn't look like there's any mixing of Revell colours either. Then we've got our sort of key, and read carefully before you start. We open it up and the full colour nature of the instructions carries on. So page 2, and we have our sprue map. It's showing some areas that have got parts that we're not going to use. And then we've got the start of the build, which starts with the cockpit. Pictures are quite small considering the size of the box. Actually, they could be a bit bigger, but they're easy enough to read, I suppose. So cockpit, and then the landing gear, and then that is going into the upper surface of the fuselage. Interesting to see where your join line is going to be. So that should be easier to clean up. We'll see come the time. And then we've got step 6, which is putting our wings, tail, engine exhaust, and so on. We have some rockets going on at this point as well. So with all those sub-assemblies, that gets us to step 13, where we're concentrating on the underside of the aircraft. And that is it. So it's 13 steps to complete the build. And then on the back here we have our paint instructions, which also include our decals. So you can see here these big letters as all different colours to be using, and then we've got lots of decals which cover the camouflage. So that's really interesting. Should be a nice quick build actually, I would think. Right, let's take a look at the decals. So we have two decal sheets. This first one here, the smaller of the two, has got all the sort of the aircraft stencils, markings, the cockpit interior decals, and then the national insignia. Decals are the usual ICM standard, so they're pretty good, and then we can cut the numbers out to suit our needs. No issues with those at all. And then the second sheet is focusing on the camouflage. So I guess what we're going to do is paint one base colour on the aircraft and then use these decals to give us the camouflage effect. Now some of them have quite a bit of carrier film just to the nature of the gaps in there. So you might want to do a little bit of extra cutting to try and sort that out. They're not thick at all, but these are going to be big, complicated decals to put in place. So yeah, quite a bit of fun to be had trying to get them on, I would think. Right then, looking at Sprue A in the first instance, that's got the two fuselage halves on and the back end of our engines. So the detail on the aircraft is really quite nice. The panel lines aren't too deep or too thick, so I'm happy with those. Definitely need a wash. There's a little bit of seam on them, but other than that, they're quite good. Although it looks like they've had a little bit of a battering, these parts. Considering where they've been made and where they've come from, that's possibly not a surprise. So there's a little bit of work there just to clean that up, but it's nothing major. A little bit of flash there, so a little bit of cleanup needed to get them together. Got some nice engine detail on the inside. And the vents there have a little bit of flashing, so we'll have to get in from the back and just clean them out a little bit, but they're not bad at all. We've got some nice little detail there in the cockpit we can pick out. Yeah, that all looks good. Remembering that this is 1/72 scale, so we're not expecting too much from this, but there's a nice level of detail in there, I think. Sprue B, we've got all our major parts on here, the wings and tail. They're all solid, but despite that there is no sink or anything like that, or ejector pin marks. All our flaps and what have you are all fixed. And then we've got some nice little detail on some of these internal parts where we're going to see rivet detail because airflow isn't an issue on them, they're internal. The seat itself has got harnesses moulded in, so that doesn't look too bad. I don't think there is a pilot, in fact no there isn't. And we've got the cockpit dials. So where we've got internal parts, we've got some nice little detail there. There is quite a bit of seam on some of these. I've seen worse, but I wouldn't say that they were crisply moulded parts. I'd say, you know, there's a little bit of cleanup needed, but not a huge amount. build it in a weekend type job. There isn't a sprue letter on this, but as we've done A and B, I will call this C. And sprue C has got basically the undercarriage on there and various rockets. These are the ones that we're not using, these larger ones. The wheels are solid with moulded in hubs. Detail's not amazing, but there's enough on there that you give them a paint and a wash and they'll come out okay. The missiles, clean the seam up and get rid of the sprue gates, and that's all ready to go. We've just got some tail fins to put on, which are attached there, so they should build up really quite quickly. There's no real issues with any of this. And actually, the landing gear looks really quite nice. Okay, clear parts now. We've got some wing lights and that sort of stuff in there. And then we've got the canopy. We've got a fairly significant area that we have to paint. There is a little bit of scuffing, just needs a little bit of a polish out, a little bit of polishing compound on there, just to get that really shiny, and then a dip in some clear gloss varnish, and that should look terrific. Distortion, there's a little bit on there, as we'd expect given the shape, not too bad on there. So all in all, they're not bad at all, those clear parts. So there we have it, ICM's newly released Mig-29 in Ukrainian service, the Ghost of Kiyv edition. What are my first impressions? Well, I've been looking forward to the release of this kit. So it's important to note that this is not a new toolkit. In 2012, it's been re-released a few times, and it's just been re-released now with new decals to fit the Ghost of Kiyv theme. And to put some money back into the Ukrainian economy and into the war effort. So what you're getting is not something that's the newest iteration of a Mig-29. So with that expectation in mind, I think actually it's a nice little weekend project. It's not the most detailed model in the world, but what you've got is enough. With some careful painting and washes to get some shadow and some definition and depth on there, you've got enough to show this off as a nice little display piece. I think because you've not got much in the way of issues with cleanup, it's just really take the seams off and remove the sprue gates and away you go. So this can probably be done in a weekend. So I think it's a great little model for modelers of any level, whether you're a beginner, whether you've done one or two models, or whether you've been modeling for many years. I think there's something for everybody in here. So I think it's a great little kit. It's something that I think a lot of people feel they can probably get behind. And what I'm going to do now is stop out everything and build this, and I'm not doing any other modeling projects till this is done. All right, if you're interested in one of these, you now know what you get in the box. I hope that was useful and helpful. Take care everyone, enjoy your modeling, and I will see you very soon.